Just waiting for my streams to connect. I'm not seeing YouTube go live. There we go, that appears to be connected now. So welcome back to the Island 54 devlog, where dev stream, where I'm building a survival crafting MMO in Unity and TypeScript. I've been working a bit on the netcode to improve the way that entities are sent from the server to the client, to prioritize the entities that are likely to change often or are closer to the player. They're the things that should get priority. I want to avoid making my protocol any more complicated to increase packet sizes or anything like that. As long as I can avoid that, I will. So that's my focus at the moment. I am going to start with where I left off. I was building up these JSON payloads to help the client fetch entities from the server chunk by chunk. And people noticed, and I noticed yesterday, that this code was starting to look pretty ugly. I mentioned the pattern called fluent construction, and I decided to just bite the bullet and implement a fluent constructing dictionary. Fluent dictionary builder. It's really not much code. I just did this morning. I had no time yesterday to continue work on this, but this is what I put together this morning. All it does is it constructs a dictionary, allows you to add things into the dictionary, and then allows you to build the dictionary. Now, it doesn't seem like much, but the key to this is the fact that the add returns the builder itself. And so that means that I can chain these calls together and can simplify this code over here a lot more. This wasn't going to work anyway, by the way. I woke up in the middle of the night and realized that I was going to be passing through a string in here, which is not what I wanted. I wanted it to be passing an object anyway. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this. And to JSON string is going to be a lot simpler. This is going to become a new dictionary builder. I need to pass it the key type, which is going to be string, and the value type, which could be anything. So I'm just going to make that an object. Now what I can say is I can conditionally add each of these things. So this isn't getting much simpler yet. But it's in here that it starts to get simpler, because in here I want to pass it another object. Now I can use a dictionary as that object, because this is going to be a nested object with all the parameters for the region. What are the parameters for the region? It's the centroid, and then within that we have the chunk and the hex, and then we also have the radius. So in here I'm going to do a new dictionary builder, again with string and object. But this time I'm going to add each of the sub things that we want. So I can do a centroid, but this is going to be a new dictionary builder from string to object. And in here we can add, what do I want in here? I want a chunk. Let me just check exactly what it is I'm after. Yes, we have a chunk and a hex. So, because we need to nest again, we just do a new dictionary builder from a string. This time I can actually make it number. It doesn't really matter what oh, not number. I want float. Is that float? No, it's int. It doesn't really matter. I could make that object, I believe. Dot add u can now be, hello, welcome back, Northern Code. Currently working on getting the the client able to fetch entities by chunk. That will prevent us from having to transmit all that stuff over UDP for things like trees and stones. So it leaves the UDP channel open for higher priority updates like troll movement. So in here, I need the region value dot centroid dot uv dot u dot add b region value dot centroid dot uv dot v. Oops, that's not right. V dot v. That's not correct. That goes there, and then I do a dot build. This design pattern I'm using here is really common in Java. I have no idea why it's not used more in other languages, because it is a really neat little pattern that lets you just build things like dictionaries in place like this and nest them, more importantly. So yes, I need to build that one. That's the end of that add. Dot add hex. It's going to be a new dictionary builder, string to int. And we're going to add, let's copy and paste this code here. This needs to be the Q component, the R component. Okay. Oops, hold on. Sorry, I just... Okay. What can we do here? Just trying to get my... Sorry, I've got a million and one things running through my mind at the moment. I need another one, don't I? I need the radius. So I've done the... Oh no, the centroid has those two, so now I can just build the centroid. And then I need to add the radius. Now this should be lowercase, because that's what the server expects. Sorry, I've lost my OBS window. There it is. Dot add radius. And in here, we just pass through the query value, no, the region value, dot radius. Do that, we call dot build on that, and I should now have a dictionary with all the parameters we need in there. Okay, sorry, I'm just going to make myself a coffee here. I've got a half-litre French press that is fully brewed and just needs to be poured. This is my fuel to keep on going. There we go. Oops, I put it down on my keyboard. Okay. Where was I? I've lost OBS again. There it is. So that builds up the dictionary. And then down in here, we just serialize it, and that should do exactly what we want. So this is if we were to specify a component, it would add that into this top level dictionary. This allows us to request a static value. Sorry, request that it only returns static entities. That allows us to avoid things like trolls if we are going to be getting those over UDP anyway. And then a region, yes, we can specify the region. Excellent. So where was this being used? This query parameter gets used in the message processor. Is that the message processor? Yes. So in here, all we do is we specify a region. If this is an entity invalidation, we specify the region we want to get entities for. We set is static if it's needed, and then we query it. I think this looks pretty good. Let's see. I need to find my Unity client. No, first of all, I need to find my server that is apparently running. I'll just restart it because I have no idea what state that's in. That seems to be starting up. Okay. What have we got here? I think I can just run this. Press run here. Still can't find my entity, my Unity. There it is. It still won't display the trees and things because I'm not doing anything with those results yet. All I'm hoping to do is see some log messages indicating that it has received those entities, but I apparently have a compiler error. What's my compiler error? I've somehow turned on in Rider, I've told it to use a more recent version of .NET, and there's some syntax with namespaces that's not actually legal in Unity, and that catches me every time. Parameters, same thing. I'll have to try and work out how to roll back that change. I might try and do that now, actually. Settings. It's probably something about languages and frameworks. C#. No. Can't see anything about the version of C# in here. Live templates, don't care. Build tools. Code style is not quite right. Color schemes, no. Editor, no. No, I'm gonna have to give up. What I will just check as one last thing is under scripts, I'll just see if there is a way of configuring the project from here, or maybe up in here, edit, file. I am definitely going to give up on that. I'll do that off stream. I've got other things that are going to need to be updated though, I suppose. Do that. Is Unity happy? Not quite. Here we go. Need to do that one. And one last one. No, that's it. All right, so if I happen to have a troll in the game, we should still see the troll, but we should not see any trees or anything. Yep, there's our troll. Still can't see the trees. I've got my sound turned off so he's not going to get too annoying as he attacks us. What I need is to see the log messages. I don't see a log message indicating that it's receiving any entities. So I'm going to breakpoint in here and just check whether or not we're receiving any chunk invalidations. Yep, we've got lots of chunk invalidations. So let's step in through here. We should... Oh, that didn't have any invalidation types? No, no invalidation types. So this has to be is most likely a server-side bug. I'd say that the server-side is not telling the client what kind of invalidation it is. So if we go into here, it looks like it's generating static entities invalidation type. I wonder if I've not copied across the latest C# file. Oh, no, the issue is going to be that needs to be an array. I've said that and it's meant to be called invalidation types. There we go. Restart that. Shouldn't need to restart the client this time. Connection refused. Oh, that was just it. Oh, something is very unhappy here. I assume that crashed or something. Not to worry. We let that run. I'll set a breakpoint in here just so I can step through and watch this stuff. Oh, that's... Oh, we've hit a breakpoint. That's fine. So we come in through here. We check the invalidation types, which there should be one. There is. So it's requesting that we fetch static entities. Fetching entities should be true. Let's just clear up a bit of space in here. Fetching entities is indeed true. So we come in through here, we get the chunk coordinate, we build a query parameters. And query parameters, we're not specifying a component. We're not specifying if it's static yet. We are giving it a region. It has a centroid. And it has a radius. I don't know what's wrong with the format there. That's a little strange. 0x0. Set is static to true. And then we go out and we dispatch that request. Something is kind of locking up here. Here we go. Don't know what that troll is doing. I'm not going to worry too much about that at the moment, though. It still doesn't seem to be getting any data back, though. I'm pretty sure I have a log message. I think I might need to restart Unity. Yeah, something is very wrong here. So I'm just going to kill Unity. Start it up again. Get the new version. Then play. I wonder if I'm doing a whole lot of fetching off on the main thread. That would do it. I'll get a breakpoint in there, just see which thread I'm actually doing these fetches on, because something is looking really unhappy here. Yeah, remote session update. This is running on the main thread. So what I think I can do in here, the easiest way of getting this to go off onto a background thread is to use a feature of Unity here where I return an IEnumerable from update. IEnumerable or IIterator? IEnumerator. I'm not sure which it is. It's complaining about something on there. Let's just let the debugger finish. Here we go. Expected void out of update. I thought we could return IEnumerable out of update. Let's just ask. Welcome back, Aaron Dem guy. Currently trying to work out. I've got my client fetching, well, trying to fetch entities from the server, but I believe it's happening on the main thread, which is really not good. Everything kind of locks up as it receives each UDP packet. I need a browser. Where's a browser? Here's a browser. And then I'm going to look for Unity update IEnumerator. I think it's IEnumerator. Executing coroutine in update. Right, first game concept. Oh, okay. Morning, Graphic. Currently getting my requests out to the entity service to happen not on the main thread. Well, that's the plan anyway. This does need to return a void. Then in here, what I'm going to do, I need to be invoking this as a coroutine. So pending message received gets set to this. So I need this to go and start a coroutine that ideally goes off and executes all of these sequentially in the coroutine. This is being done in a loop. I mean, I could just move this whole thing into another method and just start the whole thing as a coroutine. That's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to do a private enumerator. Is it a numerator or enumerable? I can't remember. We'll find out. Process message. I hope we're not going to have time zone arguments in the chat. Otherwise, I'll have to rule on it and it's morning. Okay, so I'm going to grab all of this stuff. Pretty big function, isn't it? Put that in there for now. Start a coroutine in here. Process message. I've never really done this before, so if anyone sees anything silly that I'm doing using my enumerators, and I'm going to have return yields and stuff in here. If anyone sees anything silly, do let me know. So currently, I am doing the query from inside here. Now, this is the one thing that slightly annoys me with this Unity way of doing things, is it sometimes feels a little bit like you need to change your interfaces and things. But no, I think I can just do a return yield in here. Yield return. And then I can just pass any value back, right? No, I can't pass any value back. I need to give it a whatever. So this will cause this generator function to generate just a null, and it'll do that for each one. And then I probably need a yield return all the way down the bottom. I have no idea if that'll work. I will try it out and see if it is any better. Nope. Not much better. So I'd say that this is actually still running on the main thread, just that we're allowing it to run between multiple updates. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to add a query async method here. And I'm going to make this return a task. Let's see. Query async. Let's go to the entity client. Oh, everything's locked up. I'm just going to have to kill Unity. All right. So here we go. Public task. I think I give it the return value. Query async. Query parameters. I'll start out with exactly that same code, but I'm going to change this in here. So this, I think, should be a response task. And we do not do that. Just confirm this returns a response task. Yep, it does. Sorry, a task. It does. Now, I don't really remember how C# tasks work, but I presume I can chain some sort of a function together. Does it have a dot then? No. Hmm. I am going to have to look up some examples. Task. I want something similar to a future, a promise. Promise style, promise equivalent in C#. Here we go. Look at their example codes. They want to do a promise of their result. They want okay. I'm just going to hack away at this for a few minutes and just see what I can come up with. Just need to understand what all of this stuff does. This looks pretty promising. It looks a lot like TypeScript, or JavaScript too, which is nice. So here they define an async function. So it returns a task. They grab a task. This is like my dispatching the request. And then they await that, but they never, in this case, they never return. So this is closer to what I want. Just blew this up a bit. So here they've got an async returning a task with a type. They await the result, and then they return something. Perfect. This is a lot more like Node than I was expecting it to be. So my understanding is over in here, I want this to be an async. It returns a task, which is just like returning a promise. And then in here, this used to have a dot result. I don't want that anymore. I want this to be just await. I want this to be called response. And then indeed, this apparently returns an optional. Do I want to do that? I guess it could fail. So that's not quite what I want. Maybe it is. Item can be null. All right. Then I'll call into this. Var query task is going to be equal to that. I've not tried Unreal Engine, no. I'd consider playing around with it at some point, but I've heard that I've got to go to a fair bit of effort to get it going on Linux. There are no Linux, as I've heard, there are no Linux binaries, distributable binaries. You've got to go and compile it yourself. Apparently takes a long time, and it's for minimal benefit. I may look at Godot at some point just to have a try of it and see what that's like. But everything I've seen about Unreal Engine, it sounds like it produces very nice results if you put a lot of effort into it. But it sounds like they go out of their way to break convention. They, everything has a different name to what they use in the other engines and in the 3D community in general. And so I think that there's probably a bit of a learning curve to Unreal, is my suspicion. Now, I need to get a result out of this. Well, actually, that's not true. What I need to be able to do is I need to be able to guarantee that certain parts of this, well, the results of my query, where's my query? I need to make sure that the results of this query get processed on the main thread. They developed their engine first. Yeah, although there's a lot of terminology that I remember from, like I went to uni uh, back in the 90s, and there's a lot of terminology that just comes from academia. Like I did a 3D graphics course, and yeah, there's heaps of terminology that comes out of the research that gets picked up by the other engines, whereas Unity seemed to have come up with names that don't comply with what others were using in all the research. Yeah, I won't switch for the sake of it. And Godot, Godot has some weirdnesses to it. I've seen all sorts of weird stuff where where shadows don't line up with items out of the box, or um, an item sitting on top of another one has a gap, things like that. I've seen a lot of strange quirks in people doing trivial things in Godot. I'm sure that it can all be worked around. But yeah, if it starts working in Unity, I have no intention to switch away from it. And the benefit of Unity and Unreal over something like Godot is, potentially console support. All right, so just going to think this through. I need the result of this task to get processed on the main thread. So I think the easiest way of doing that is going to be to put in here I mean, I could make this an async. I've really just kind of kicked the can down the road here. What's its problem here? The body of process message cannot be an iterator block. I'm just going to keep going with this. I'm going to say query result is going to be equal to await that. I'm going to log received entities. Yeah, interesting perspective graphic. Yeah, I've not looked into it too much. But yeah, as you say, it's not worth changing for the sake of changing. I'm not expecting this to have, AAA graphics, so I don't imagine there's a benefit as long as things are working in Unity. I don't see a benefit in redoing everything. That said, my client should be as light as possible. Is kind of one of the things I'm aiming for here. So I shouldn't be too attached to any given engine. Okay. So this is going to run on the main thread. I'm not doing this as a coroutine anymore. Cannot be an iterator block. Why does it think it? Oh, because I've got return yields in here still, don't I? Yield returns. Let's get rid of that. Did I have another one up here? No. That looks better. Yeah, anyone who's not familiar with C++, I would not recommend using it for writing a game. If you're learning to write a game, I would not want to learn C++ at the same time. Uh, it's an incredible language. It's got a lot of power, but yeah, there are a lot of gotchas. Yeah, I don't want to start a coroutine here. I think I could just do that. Is not awaited. Execution continues before the call is completed. Well, that's kind of what I want, right? I just want to process these things in the background. I don't want to block the main thread. Can I tell it to ignore that? Yeah, C++ is fine. It's just when people are coming from other languages, it does have it does have a lot to learn around memory management. There are some simple rules you can follow that make memory management not an issue. So you should never use, I mean, I'm sure there are cases to break it, but in general, you should never use a pointer type. You should always use smart pointers. Otherwise, you will run into all sorts of problems. I've worked on some fairly big C++ projects, and we were banned from pretty much ever using a pointer type. All right, I think this will work. Let's give this a go. I can find Unity. Oh, I killed it, didn't I? That would do it. Before I run that, there's actually another thing I can be changing in here. When I fetch that result, I think that I've got another task just here. Yeah. So this should actually be an await in here as well. Just let it do the actual fetch, because this could be streaming between here and here. It could be streaming data. So this will provide. It makes no difference given I'm off on a background thread at this point, but all right. Play. Hopefully this fixes it. I'm expecting lots of log messages saying we've got results. This is looking better. Yep. It's a bit laggy. But it is at least clearly not fetching. Oh, and it's getting too many entities back. So something's still going funny. It's doing something on the main thread here. I've not heard about Carbon. No. What's that, Graphic? I assume it's a library or extension for C++, at a guess. So we've got two problems here. One of them is that this is extremely laggy, but I'm not actually doing anything with these results yet. The other problem is that it's getting too many results back. So the first thing I need to do is check what my entity client is doing. Here's my entity client. Why would it be getting 1,000 results back? This is the thing I need. Let's breakpoint there, step down. Well, what I really want is this one. Well, that would do it. I have to admit, I like the idea of Google doing languages. There's a guy at Google who used to be AT&T named Rob Pike. He's a language expert. He's the guy behind Go, and so he has a lot of good ideas about languages. And if Rob Pike is involved, then I would be very trusting of that. I'm going to quickly Google that. Carbon Google language Rob Pike. Nope, it's all about Go. So it sounds like he's not involved with it. Interesting. No, well, Go and TypeScript are very different languages. Go is it's much more. I've not used it myself, but as I understand it, it's much more a bare metal type language, just with a lot of protection for memory built in. So you'd use it as a substitute for C++ rather than TypeScript. All right, so what have I done here? Parameters. What is parameters? Parameters is it most certainly has a region. Um, I don't even know where to start here. It's JSON string. Is there something wrong in here? Turn JSON convert. Let's go and check that out. My query dictionary looks like it has some things in it. It does. That is not doing what I wanted it to do. I'm pretty sure this is exactly how I was doing the my original netcode. I'm pretty sure I was doing using a dictionary like this. All right, time to Google Newtonsoft. Oh, I hope this isn't the Unity Newtonsoft versus non-Unity Newtonsoft. That'd be really annoying if Unity had done something silly here. Single inheritance is fine as long as there's support for, well, interfaces at a minimum, and preferably some form of mix-in. If you've got interfaces and mix-ins, then I think there is absolutely no other use case for multiple inheritance. No valid one. I'm sure that people can come up with ridiculous cases, but the problems of multiple inheritance just aren't worth it. Except those two caveats. Okay. What am I trying to do here? I'm trying to, sorry, I'm a little distracted today. Let's just allow this to end. That's ended. For anyone new in the comments, feel free to ask lots of questions. I'm always happy to chat with the viewers. and always happy to repeat myself. Okay. What is this doing? Okay, so it's not Unity's fault. Excellent. This is definitely my fault then, because I have had this working before. Newtonsoft JSON converter, serialize, dictionary, serialize a dictionary. All right, looks like I'm apparently a C# noob anyway. I didn't need to build that builder thing. This looks like it's perfectly capable of doing it. Just in C# normally. That explains why they don't use that pattern. This should work. Serialize object, points. Okay. Oh, wait, something's not right here. I'm missing a build. Here we go. I reckon this will fix it. I still don't know why this was affecting the performance of the client, because all this should just be happening out in the back. So that's still on my list of things to do. I just killed Unity, didn't I? Oh, right. This should now have, oops, what did I just do? Alt F8, nope, Alt F8. There we go. Still not right. Query dictionary is still a dictionary builder. How's that possible? I think I might need to get rid of my builder type. Or did that just not compile? Ah, that needs to be .build over here. I definitely think that my dictionary builder is causing more confusion than it was worth. Better than the old code, at least. Let's get that out. Restart that. Yeah, Google's pretty good at making standards open. Oh, this looks better. That looks a little bizarre. It's like the player's grown arms and feet. Yeah, they've got a history of releasing things as open standards. I think Protobuf was originally Google. Okay, we can see that's receiving small numbers of entities, so this is looking really good. Sausage troll, I like it. Once I got the trees in, we can have a tree pie and sausage troll. Okay. Let's get back here. Find. We need to take these results. Oh, I've probably got. How on earth is that troll working? I'm surprised I'm not getting errors in here because this code here is. This should be running on the main thread. I think I'm a bit confused about how tasks work. Do tasks actually run out of a thread pool or not? C# task thread. Task and thread. Or is this just a coroutine? No, these look like they come out of get processed by a thread pool. All right. I'm just going to breakpoint there, see which thread I'm on at this point. Because this code here must run on the main thread. And I'm not on the main thread by the looks of things. Wow. I'm really surprised this isn't crashing. Are we getting error messages? Oh, that's making me seasick, having that so big on my screen. I'm really unsure how that's not giving me exceptions. All right. I'm going to ignore that for now. And I mean, I'm even going to embrace it. I'm going to go and process these entities over here as if they're updates. So let's do that. For each entity in here, entities. For each entity in entities. Yeah, I think I'll get there in the end. I'm pretty sure tasks run on threads. I'd say that I'm just getting lucky here, and the moment I try and touch this troll on, or any of these objects on the main thread, I think that it's going to get a bit cranky. Welcome back, Ifman. Currently working on getting the trees and stones and things being sent through a side channel to the client so we don't clog up the UDP channel for really low priority stuff. Okay. This is still, I mean, it's still going to be going and fetching all these entities for every single frame, but we can fix that. We can improve that later. Let's see now. For each entity, I need to work out whether or not it already exists. So there's going to be some duplicated code here. I'm in fact going to, I'm just going to grab pretty much all of this stuff. And I am going to just reproduce it up in here because this function needs to get bigger, apparently. Okay. Here I need to work out the prefab. I'm going to change this to prefab from remote string remote. No, I do need that. All right. Private game object prefab for remote prefab. Local. Oh, what have I done? Local prefab for remote. And then this is just going to take string remote prefab name. Then I can take all of that code there and transfer that up into here. That this is going to be the remote prefab name. What was it? That was equal to attribute dot string value. Turn attribute dot string value. Then I also need to handle the case of troll. Oops. Attribute dot string value again. We will handle trolls in here. Okay. Looking good. So next, what I can do, if I can find the code I was editing, this looks good. We need to pull out the ID. That's easy. That's just entity.id. Doesn't like that. Entity is defined below. Yep, fair enough. Remote entity in entities. The JetBrains editors have a really nice key combination, which is Control Shift Backspace, and it actually just moves backwards through your edit points. So if you haven't been jumping around too much, then it's a really good way of getting back to your code. Alternatively, F2 jumps to the next compile error. So usually when you're editing code, obviously you've got compile errors all through it. So between the two of those, you can usually find your code in JetBrains pretty quickly. All right, so what's my entity type? I could have sworn I had something called ID. Oh, it's going to be capital I because we are in C# land. So this is going to be the back button. Yeah, okay, nice. Local prefab for remote, and let's do the. Well, we need to know if it is a. An entity. We need to know if this is a mob or an item. I'll set a breakpoint on there. Not a breakpoint, a bookmark. And then I'm going to do a private game object prefab for remote entity, and this is going to be an entity. I need to kind of do the same thing as up here. But in this case, we've got the full entity. So entity.components.each. This is very repetitive code. I'm sure this will all get simplified at some point. Attributes is a bit simpler. So in here we can say if component.attributes.contains key this doesn't look right. Oh, this is missing an if. If attribute dot name is equal to what do I call this? Troll. It is model. Okay. So we try finding the mob's model. This could be drastically simplified, couldn't it? All right. If it is a mob or an item, then just look for a model attribute. And we're done. Likewise, type dot equals. Yeah, sorry, it probably gets a bit bright when I go into my browser. Item. Then dot attributes dot contains key model. Then for remote, and it's just going to be component dot attributes model dot string value. Nope. How's that not a thing? Oh, attributes is a map of string to object. Yeah, okay. Can I do model is string model? I have no idea if that's legal or not. Cold water on your noodles. Oh dear. Model local prefab for remote and model. I have no idea if that's legal. Yeah, I've got a feeling this is going to throw, isn't it? There's a get or default on dictionary, isn't there? Sorry, bright screen for everyone again. Get or default dictionary. Sworn there was something out of the get value or default. I've used that elsewhere. Get value or default. Definitely used it. Oh, is this going to be because it's not a class? Huh, yep. All right. There we go. Slow progress here, but getting there. Oh yeah, let's use this default. All right. In here, I think I can just pass in an entity, remote entity. It doesn't like or remote or entity. What have I done? Prefab for remote entity. I'll need to clean up all these names. This is all a bit all over the place. Prefab remote entity.id .id. Might as well just pull this out into its own variable. Entity ID looks good. Entity ID. Oops. Okay. Create an overload for that one. Almost there. Oh, what was that? I need to work out what this function is meant to do. Oh, there's a whole lot of stuff. Wow, okay. I'm going to move this new function to be with the other one. So obviously I need to be converting things to some intermediate form that both the updates and the full entities share. Hmm. Uh, oh, such a pain. I think I don't actually want this to be a full transform. This is like this is the Unity, proper Unity transform, isn't it? No, this is like uh, this is my on the wire protobuf type. So this is not what I want. Uh, I'm just going to hack away at this and just get it working one way or another. Yeah, yeah. Operator overloading can be really nice. People misuse it though, unfortunately. This is why we can't have nice things. Touche, Griffith. I agree with you on eval being more evil. I guess the issue is anytime someone uses eval, they're being evil. Whereas there are legitimate use, so you can just say no, you're not allowed to use eval. But there are good use cases for operator overloading. I know this is a pretty circular argument. Wait, how have I got a full game object coming up in here? Oh, hold on, I'm being silly here, aren't I? This isn't meant to pass the entity, this is meant to be passing the remote entity. And do I get a... Oh, I'll just create an overload just so I can grab entity. Okay. I feel a bit silly. So let's make that one entity. Entity dot transform position dot x. All right, I still need to do this horrible stuff. I probably should have just bitten the bullet, shouldn't I, and done this a bit cleaner. There was a lot more code than I was hoping, and I'm still going, so type, so we grab the client actions. Yeah, fair enough, Graphic. Client action dot ID. I presume that's already of the correct type. Yep. So this is just trying to find the action. Oops. Dot attributes dot get value or default action comma null. I can improve this. I can just grab all of that. If that as is string action. that should be action. I think you can actually also put in here an is not, like that, and then that lets me put the error case in there, and then the rest just goes down here. Nice. Yeah, obviously this is not very extensible. That's not my problem though, that is future me's problem. Okay. So what was I trying to do in all of that? Oh, well, I'm trying to get it to draw the trees. Be cool. That would be so cool if that just worked. uh, see how we go. Oh, wow. Okay. Still got the problem that things aren't quite sitting on the ground. But we are getting all of our scatter through. This is doing a massive amount of work because I don't know what the troll's doing there. Oh, we're out of range of the troll, and I've got him set to just always animate. So yeah, we always just get all of the trees sent through. It goes and updates them all. But so apart from this being an absolutely massive amount of traffic going across TCP, this is starting to look pretty good. Excellent. So I'm ignoring the fact that things float. I am aware that it's loading entities before it's loaded the terrain in around them. That's because I've got the radiuses not agreeing. So the client chooses which chunks it loads for terrain, whereas the server is deciding which chunks get loaded for entities. But on the whole, I am pretty happy with this. So I guess the question is, what do I work on next? My whole point at the moment is to work towards this playtesting of the resource gathering mechanic where you try to find some resources and you have to fight off a troll for it. So the two things that I really need to be focusing on are spawning in trolls. It's more than two things. I need to spawn in trolls. I need the concept of a biome or something like that. So there'll be a biome. You have to go find the biome. The trolls spawn in there with two different rules. So if no one's around, then they get spawned in. You'll spawn in a couple of them, perhaps. Whereas if there is someone there, then it'll spawn them in with slightly different rules. I do need to do the resource gathering. That's a good point, Griffith. So no, you can't currently cut trees. Well, you probably can cut trees. Let's just try that. In fact, I am 90% sure that tree chopping will work. Oh, all our trees kind of start out fallen as well, and they quickly jumped up the right way. No, we can't cut trees. That slightly surprises me. Oh, wait, I don't have a tool in my hand. So let's just quickly grab a couple of stones. No, none of my crafting shortcuts are working. It's a little strange. Why might that be? Oh, wait. No, it's just obviously something in my UI that's not very clear. Yeah, this is something that confused my wife when she did the play test. Uh, oh, no, okay. It's two things. One is, so I should probably have something showing you the keys that I'm pressing on the screen. So in order to craft, there are two things that have to be done that aren't obvious at the moment. So one is you must have your cursor over the ground. If it's in the sky, it's obviously failing some raycast. And so pressing E in this case, I'm operating on this flat stone, and the only things I can do with a flat stone are drop it or eat it. Eat was obviously left in as a joke, but you can't craft with it. Whereas if I press Q, I can craft with it. Now, ugh, this is pretty ugly. I can create my hand axe, so let's craft that. Now the issue is that that crafting has happened in, as Griffith says, in Unity land. So my problem here is that if I were to, there are two issues, three issues. One is that the server did not see me pick up those stones. So let's see if I can actually come up with a more concrete example. If I come in here and where we spawn, at our feet, we have this stone just here. So if I pick that up and then I spawn out and I spawn back in, we're going to spawn right on top of ourselves, but because that player will still be in the game for another 60 seconds. But if we look down at the ground, you can see that stone is still there, even though this player picked it up. So there's that. There's also the fact that if I pick that up and drop it over here, then the server doesn't know that that's happened. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put these interactions in, because this is going to be related to, I need to reproduce all of this when I do the harvesting. So let's just come in here, we'll craft, oops, if I can press the button properly, I need bigger hit targets. We'll craft the hand axe. Now if I come up here, yes, I can harvest the tree, that still works, but this is all client side. Yeah, I agree that it's confusing for new players. It confused my wife. I'm gonna, once I've got things ported across to the server, I'm going to have my kids play test it to see how they go. But yeah, I agree that the shortcuts should cover both hands. Or the other option is if you're trying to, if your rule is you want to craft something using this, but on this, then, you know, either of these is a valid thing to use. Whereas if I walk up to this tree, it's quite reasonable that someone will press E here to go and harvest that tree. But, you know, are they going to press Q? No. So perhaps it's just that you can use either hand that is involved in the operation. I don't know. Yeah, you can harvest twice as much with a buddy. The the mechanic I'm planning on using here is, you know, at the moment this is an instant operation, whereas I want there to be potentially a mini game, so something you have to do on the screen for that to happen. Uh, and certainly it should take some time. While you might be able to harvest twice as much with a buddy, the better use case is having your buddy there uh, doing things to the, trying to stop the trolls from attacking you, because you obviously don't want to be disturbed while you're harvesting. I don't think you can eat the trees. You certainly can't eat the tree that's in the ground. If you pick up a branch, you can apparently eat the branch. There you go. I don't. Oh, can you eat the tree? Hold on. Oh no, eating. You can't eat the tree. Okay, that was a debug operation you just saw there. Um, you can't actually eat the tree. I think eat will eat the stone axe. Yeah, that eats the stone axe. So there's a fair bit that has to happen in that UI to make it clearer what is being done to what. But that is not my focus at the moment. So I need to get some stuff in to allow the client to actually pick up stones. There are two ways of doing that. So one is to allow the client to manipulate entities directly and then put some sort of validation on it at the time that you're validating, at the time that the client requests it. So in that world, what would happen is when I pick this up, the client would put in a pair of requests. One would be to actually remove the entity from the world, and the other one would be to put it into my hand. I'm not a fan of that because for a couple of reasons. One is that the permission model is going to be really complicated. You need to make sure that players aren't just doing half the operation. So uh, when I put an entity down, I don't want the client to be requesting that that entity get created in the world. Otherwise, you've got to confirm that they actually put it down. So I want the idea of commands. Now, the command in each of these cases, this would be player picks up, player requests that they pick up the stone with that entity ID. And then when I put it down, player requests that the thing with that entity ID gets placed back into the world. That is definitely the model I want to go with. It's simpler on the client side and it's simpler on the server side as well. It can do all of the permission checks all in one place. Now, the natural way to do that would be to extend my protocol to allow commands to be sent from the client, but I'm thinking I can do it without, I can do it in a cleaner way without having this extra thing in my protocol, which is the player can just request that a component gets placed on them, and that component is a command request. Just going to see what Griffith said there. I have processes, which is a list of actions with an ID. Pick up and put in inventory. Two actions, pick up and put in inventory. Yeah, so that could work. My concern is that certainly in a distributed system, I'm worried that if only half of it works for some reason, so if an action, if you've got a pickup action for this entity ID and then a put in inventory for the same data, that's all fine. But if someone does a pickup with an invalid entity ID and put in their inventory, then you need to validate the first one went through before the second one is allowed to happen. So I kind of want them to be communicated in an atomic way. That way, the system that processes it can confirm that, it can do whatever checks it needs to do to say, all right, this only goes into the inventory if it was valid to take it out of the world. So I think I'm going to use the concept of a command with um, a, a doer, a subject, and an object. Um, the actions are checked before the process runs for validation. Yes. Now, my concern is that, yes, mine could be performed by different systems. That's correct. So, being a distributed system, that's a little bit harder. So, I do need to make sure they're bundled up so that they can be processed at the same time. I already have the concept of commands on my client. So, when somebody does, where's my stone gone? Put down my axe somewhere. Is that an axe? Nope, that's a flat stone. Let's just go and make another one quickly. Craft a hand axe, craft. So in fact, there was an example. When I just crafted that stone axe, internally there's a command that says, all right, we're going to craft using this round stone on the flat stone. And there's an attribute to that action, which is the recipe that we're going to craft with. In fact, I don't believe it even talks about the flat stone until that's like an attribute of the attribute. So the actual command is craft using round stone with the recipe stone axe, where the ingredient is the old flat stone. Yes, this would not go well with modability because the bugs, the potential bugs, if someone accidentally gets the bundling of the operations incorrect, would not be nice. Okay, so I should probably create a component that the client can send through to request an operation. The server, when it sees that component, this will obviously be done by a ticker handler. When it sees that component, it will try and execute that command in a way that it is atomic, uh, doesn't happen multiple times, or if it does happen multiple times, it won't lead to duplication, and then it will remove that component afterwards. Yeah, it's a lot simpler when you've got a single kind of choreographer for the actions. And that's effectively what I'm doing by wrapping them up into a single object, into a single component. I'm effectively giving myself that level of control. Now, I'm not going to be on stream too much longer today, but let's get this started. I have no idea how I'm going to write this. At the moment, I will leave the client responsible for determining which operations are valid and presented to the user. That's not making them authoritative. It's just not requiring they go talk out to the server to say, all right, what can you do at the moment? The server will then separately validate the command that's coming in. So, yeah, my actions are they're not entity dependent. Mine are component dependent. I might as well show you that code. I think I covered it in like a really old episode, like episode 6 or something. But you can see that these are my actual verbs. Uh, and now that I think about it, eating stones I think is actually a bug. I did have it in as a joke at one point, but I think it might be a bug now. You've got this eat performer, and this actually has two things. It says, right, can you perform this? And then do perform it. To ask if you can perform it, in this case, it's saying, all right, does this have a, uh, inside the item, does it have a food attribute? And if it doesn't, then you're not, this is meant to return false, which means that the item is not meant to be, components have containing entities. Ah, yes, yes. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, so I do use this item data type, which is, here it is. Uh, this is all about how much space something takes up. So this is how I enforce how many branches you can hold in one hand. Um, and then somewhere in here, all right, so I've got food as a top level thing. This is obviously not ideal. There should be a separate component for things that are food. And in fact, here I do have a food data type. Oh, there's my bug. Might as well fix that. In the eat performer, this is actually meant to grab .get component. No, I'm not going to fix that yet. I thought that this would let me edit the food. Yeah, no, I'm just going to leave that for now. So when you activate a verb on using one of your hands, it looks at the thing that's in your hand. It looks at the thing that you're targeting with your mouse cursor. And then it just says, all right, which verbs can I perform on these things? So I'll use that. Just got to find the actual code that does that. I think it's in here. So if you request that you use something, it checks if you're raycasting. This is obviously why it fails when you touch the sky. And then it considers bringing up a pop-up, which is the actions menu, using it passes it the thing that you're pointing at and the thing that's in your inventory. So this is all going to stay the same. I'm going to do just a single action for now, which is going to be the pickup performer. I'm going to do two actions. I'm going to do the pickup and the put down. Now, notice that these don't need to store components on the local entities. So this is really just a component that's going to get sent through to the server. So one way of doing it would be to store it on the entity, or I could just store it in the remote. I've got this remote entity data, which is the data that we think the server holds. So regardless, I should do it as a local component. Yeah, all right, I'm lipping about a bit here. Under remote, I'm going to add a new component. Oh, where's my, I could add a mono Unity script. There we go, mono behavior, which I'm going to call a remote command request. Yes. Yeah, it gets worse as well because the data that I use for my inventory system, that those things in your inventory aren't actually game objects in the way that I do it. They are actually just my own object types, and so I can't use get object. I can't use get component on those. They know the data that, well, they know the prefab that needs to be used to instantiate them when you drop them, and they know any specific properties like um, you know, how much durability something has would be stored as well. Um, yeah. All right, remote command request. Let's just take a look at my verb performers for pick up and put down and just work out. Well, let's look at the base class. I've got the object that is performing the action. That's not the player, that's the actual, for example, tool that's being used. We've got also a target and this with thing, all right? So these are the three, presumably the three things that we need to send through potentially to the server. So a command is going to have a verb, which for now I'm just going to make a string. Just called verb. Performer, sorry, is I believe, well, let's check what it is in the pickup performer. It's been so long since I've touched this code. We ignore the performer. I think the performer is meant to be the player. We don't need to worry about that in this protocol because the server obviously knows which player is making the request, so that is not part of the request. And you certainly don't want to ask, you don't want to make it possible for a player to ask for an action to be done on someone else's behalf. So ignore that. In which case, I've really just got these two other parameters, which is let's say the object you're trying to do something with and the object you're trying to do it to. So we've got the verb. I'm going to say that all items, even if they're held in an inventory, are going to have, they're going to be entities. They just won't have a transform necessarily. Public string. Yeah, time is all kind of relative with these kind of projects, isn't it? It's been a few months since I've touched this. Uh, so I'm probably going to use. I need to work out which terminology I'm going to use here. What did I call? I mean, here I call it the with. Let's call it the with entity. I am going to put comments on this. The entity being used to perform the action, or the entity performing the action. I think that will make sense because this might be a tool, or it might be the thing you're about to pick up. With entity ID. No, it won't be the thing you're trying to pick up, because picking something up is doing something to it. Okay, but if you're putting down, I need to think about this a bit. Let's just start cutting code. The target entity ID, the entity having the verb performed on it. Now these are obviously going to be optional. I think I have to do that there, do I? Yes. Okay. There also need to be some other attributes. So we need to know when someone's picking something up. In the case of picking up, I'm going to say we're going to use the target entity ID. The with entity ID is going to be null because you're not using an entity to pick up. We do need to know in general which hand you're using or which slot you're using. So I'm going to send that through as a string. I don't know what form it'll take yet. I'm just going to call it the slot. So if you pick something up with your primary hand, we'll make this equal to primary. This will be pick up. This will be null. And this will be the entity ID that you want to pick up. When you're putting something down, this will be drop. This will be your primary or secondary hand or an inventory slot. This will be the place that you want to put it. So I don't think I can send these through as strings. I think that I need these to be kind of covariant. They need to be able to be an entity ID or a position or perhaps a slot. Okay, let me just work through that as an example. Let's pretend this isn't there. Let's pretend these are some other type, just some rich type that I can put different kinds of data into. So if I want to pick up a stone, I'm going to go pick up with my primary slot or secondary slot and the entity ID of the stone. When I want to put something down, we can do drop. With entity ID is the slot, and this will be the position I want to drop it to. Now we also need to know how much of something to pick up or put down. Perhaps that goes alongside the target or the slot. So slot, when we're dropping, we might say drop using the primary slot and some quantity attached to it. Okay, I'm kind of liking this. See where this goes. Catch you around, if man. If I remember correctly, you're on the east coast of the US, so it must be getting pretty late over there. So catch you around. So I'll just make this a struct. I will be finishing up. Well, I'm going to finish up very soon. I may actually finish up in the next couple of minutes just because I'm kind of right at the start of a piece of work here. And I am going to be flipping backwards and forwards a bit on this. So what I might try to do, I again have a few other things I need to attend to this afternoon, but I might try to get the design of this component kind of bedded down a bit, and then hopefully get everything working between the client and the server. Um, yes, it's 12 here in Australia, which is when I said I was going to finish up. So this is a good time for me to finish up. Yeah, so I'll try and get the design of this component bedded down this afternoon, so that tomorrow's stream I can look at just implementing it. There's going to be a fair bit of code to implement this because these types in here are going to be fairly rich and have lots of different ways of populating them to represent the different things you can target, the different things you can operate on, or operate with, sorry. So I will finish it up here. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining, and I'll probably be streaming same time tomorrow, which is 10 o'clock Australian time, midnight UTC. So until then, I will catch you all around. Thanks again.